Imagine this, a quiet morning at one of the world's busiest airports. Thousands of travelers, dozens of flights, and among them, seemingly ordinary people, calmly checking in their luggage for a luxury trip to Dubai. No alarms, no suspicions, just the hum of the conveyor belt, carrying their bags that held not clothes, but millions. This isn't fiction. This is a true story of a colossal criminal enterprise, a money laundering network so audacious it moved over £100 million in dirty cash right under the noses of authorities. Its masterminds, an elusive figure operating from the shadows, and a sophisticated recruiter luring unsuspecting individuals into a scheme that promised easy money, but delivered the chilling reality of life on the razor's edge of organized crime. 4 years. This network operated like a ghost. Its couriers paid thousands per trip, carrying suitcases packed with up to £500,000. They were told one thing: don't ask questions, don't leave a trace. But when the first crucial mistake was made, a single thread began to unravel a web of secrets, exposing an invisible empire built on sunshine and lollipops, and a mountain of cash fueling global misery. How did they pull off this impossible feat? What fatal error finally brought them down? And what shocking truth emerged about the seemingly diverse individuals caught in its grip, including a young woman who transported over £9 million, yet incredibly avoided jail? The answers will stun you. Every grand criminal scheme has an architect, a visionary, however twisted. For the Sunshine and Lollipops operation, that man was Abdullah Al-Falaisi. Born in the UAE, 47 years old when the walls closed in, Al-Falaisi wasn't a street-level thug or a known gangster. He moved in different circles, yet possessed an innate understanding of how to exploit global financial flows and a critical vulnerability in international security. From April 2019, he began to lay the groundwork for what will become the UK's largest ever cash money laundering conspiracy. His business model was as audacious as it was simple: move vast sums of illegal cash from the UK to Dubai, charging a significant fee, typically a cut of around 10% of the total moved. This wasn't merely a service, it was a transformation. Dirty money, the direct proceeds of heinous crimes, was given a facade of legitimacy upon arrival in Dubai. His clientele, as investigations would later confirm, were major organized crime groups across the UK, predominantly drug traffickers. The vast quantities of narcotics flooding British streets generated mountains of untraceable cash, and Al-Falaisi offered the perfect, almost invisible, solution to make it disappear. This operation wasn't just about personal profit. It was about enabling the very crimes that fuel addiction, violence, and despair in communities worldwide. It was a crucial pipeline that kept the criminal economy humming. The choice of business class travel wasn't for comfort, but for strategy. The generous baggage allowance, up to 4 large suitcases per passenger, was critical. Each suitcase could hold a staggering £500,000. Al-Falaisi meticulously booked all the flights, managing itineraries remotely. He operated from a distance, always from Dubai, always shrouded in silence. This detachment was his ultimate defense, making him seem untouchable, a spectral figure pulling strings from afar. His lieutenants, notably Michelle Clark, acted as a direct interface with the couriers, shielding Al-Falaisi from direct exposure. Consider this, the sheer confidence required to attempt to move £100 million. What gives a criminal mastermind this kind of audacious self-belief? Could it be the perceived weaknesses in our systems, or a misplaced sense of invincibility? Share your thoughts on Al-Falaisi's initial strategy in the comments. With the operational framework in place, Al-Falaisi needed foot soldiers, a steady stream of individuals willing to become money mules. These weren't your hardened career criminals. This was a crucial part of the scheme's genius. The couriers were typically young people, often struggling with debt, or simply drawn to the allure of easy money and a quick luxury getaway. Investigations revealed a diverse cast: recruitment managers, former models, corporate professionals, even students. They were people who blended seamlessly into the bustling world of international travel, making them the perfect, unsuspecting conduits for illicit wealth. The incentive was potent: a payday of £3,000 to £8,000 per trip, plus all expenses paid, including luxury resort stays in Dubai. A few days in the sun, a few £1,000s richer, it seemed too good to be true, and for many, it eventually was. Most were approached directly by Michelle Clark, a figure we'll soon spotlight, or through introductions by existing couriers. The pitch was always the same: no drugs, no weapons, no risks, just suitcases. And to quell any lingering doubts, there was the official-looking company letter from Omnivest Gold Trading, providing that crucial, albeit fraudulent, explanation. The actual act of transporting the money was a highly choreographed ritual. Cash, predominantly in £20 notes, was collected from various organized crime groups across the UK. This was the lifeblood of drug trafficking, human trafficking, fraud, and other serious crimes. The funds were brought to dedicated counting houses, rented apartments in central London, devoid of furniture or cameras, just tables, scales, vacuum sealers, and plastic wrap. Hey, bundles of cash were precisely counted and sorted, aiming for a consistent £500,000 per suitcase. Each brick of sterling notes was then meticulously vacuum sealed to compress the cash and minimize its bulk. But the real ingenuity lay in masking the smell and confusing detection, layers of clothes and toiletries at the top, and strategically placed items like coffee grounds, air fresheners, mouthwash, and even coat hangers. The goal was to saturate the scent profile, rendering sniffer dogs ineffective, and to create a chaotic visual signature for X-ray machines. The core of the courier management lay within the Sunshine and Lollipops WhatsApp chat group. Michelle Clark, operating as a principal handler, maintained ironclad control. The seemingly innocuous name belied one of the most tightly managed cash smuggling networks. Every courier was vetted personally by Clark. Once on board, they received precise, step-by-step instructions for each leg of the journey. Every detail was planned down to the hour. Communication was strictly limited to encrypted chat, with explicit instructions against phone calls or outside messages. Each courier was told to acquire a burner phone, used solely for that specific trip, then wiped clean upon return. The next job would come only when Clark reached out again. Clark handled all flight bookings using Alpha Lacy's credit card, primarily opting for Emirates business class due to its superior baggage allowance. Upon arrival in Dubai, designated handlers met them at the terminal. The handover was swift, clean, and efficient. Couriers would check into a luxury resort for a night or two, then fly home, leaving the money behind. Most never saw the cash again once it left their hands. The network expanded. More names, more trips, but the same rules remain unbroken. Don't ask questions. Don't speak to anyone. Don't change the plan. It was a system built on blind trust and the lure of easy money. But the human element, however disciplined, would eventually prove to be its downfall. Some couriers, growing too comfortable, started bringing in friends, relatives, even partners. And that's when the cracks began to show. What do you think motivated these individuals to participate in such a risky scheme? Was it pure greed, desperation, or perhaps a naive belief that they wouldn't get caught? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. While Alpha Lacy built the machine, Michelle Clark was its operational heart. She wasn't a courier herself, never personally carrying the heavy suitcases through airport terminals. Her role was far more critical. She was the one making the calls, orchestrating the human element of this vast enterprise. A former Sky TV executive assistant from Leeds, Clark had relocated to Dubai with her husband and children, seemingly for a fresh start. In reality, she was already constructing something else entirely. Later police investigations would uncover messages linking Clark to nearly every key courier. She handled flight arrangements, dispatched the forged Omnivest Gold Trading documents, and issued all instructions through encrypted chat groups. On each run, she dictated precisely what to pack, where to go, what to say if questioned, and most importantly, what not to say. The majority of couriers never met her in person. Those who did describe her as calm, convincing, and professional. She carried herself, they said, like someone who worked for an embassy, and that's exactly what she told them. It added to the air of legitimacy that shrouded the illicit work. Michelle Clark left nothing to chance. If you were working under her, you were added to one central location, the infamous Sunshine and Lollipops group chat. The playful name was a stark contrast to the tightly controlled, clandestine operation it managed. Couriers were rigorously vetted and on board by Clark personally. Once added, They received excruciatingly detailed, step-by-step instructions before each trip. Everything was planned down to the hour, as investigators would later discover from seized devices, particularly Tara Hanlon's phone. The strict communication protocol meant no phone calls, no outside messages, just encrypted chat within the group and silence outside of it. Each runner was mandated to purchase a pay-as-you-go burner phone, used exclusively for that specific journey, then told to wipe the device and wait. The next job would come only when Clark initiated contact. All flight bookings were processed through Clark, utilizing Alpha Laci's credit card to secure those vital Emirates business class seats. Michelle Clark's role is fascinating. What kind of person do you think it takes to orchestrate such a complex, high-stakes operation involving so many unsuspecting individuals? Share your thoughts on her influence in the comments. The very foundation of this audacious scheme rested on a critical blind spot in airport security. UK airport security is primarily focused on threats, explosives, weapons, drugs, anything that could compromise flight safety or directly endanger lives. It is not primarily designed to detect cash. At Heathrow, suitcases are pushed through advanced 3D scanners, employing computer tomography, the same technology used in medical imaging. If the software flags something suspicious, it's pulled for manual inspection. Otherwise, the image passes through, often unseen by human eyes. And crucially, large quantities of cash, even millions, are not automatically flagged as dangerous. Furthermore, under UK law, travelers are required to declare cash amounts of £10,000 or more when leaving the country. However, this system largely relies on honesty. There are no routine, universal luggage scans specifically for currency. No one is physically inspecting every single bag for cash. Once a flight is airborne, the money is effectively out of UK jurisdiction. This loophole, this silent reliance on integrity, was precisely what the Alpha Laci Clark network exploited to perfection. But even the most finely tuned criminal machine is susceptible to human error, or simply bad luck. On October 3rd, 2020, the first crucial domino fell. Tara Hanlon, a 31-year-old recruitment manager from Leeds, wheeled 5 large suitcases into Terminal 5 at Heathrow. Accompanied by another woman, Megan Reeves, they presented themselves as friends on a girls' trip to Dubai. The luggage, weighing over 60 kilograms, was packed according to Clark's meticulous instructions: vacuum-sealed cash bricks, masked with coffee grounds, clothes layered on top. From the outside, nothing seemed amiss. But Border Force officers, possibly acting on an anonymous tip or escalating intelligence, were already watching. This time, a detection dog locked onto the scent. Hanlon was pulled aside. Initially, she claimed ignorance, insisting the bags held only clothes and that she didn't know what her friend had packed. But inside the cases, officers found £1.9 million in sterling notes, the single largest cash seizure at the UK border that year. The true magnitude of the operation began to unravel when officers accessed Hanlon's phone. The device held a smoking gun, direct messages of Michelle Clark, detailing precise instructions, check-in times, and even what to say if questioned. More damningly, it revealed evidence of earlier trips, 3 journeys over that summer, during which Hanlon had already smuggled more than £3.5 million. Text messages from just days before her arrest showed her asking Clark for more names, explicitly stating she needed 12 more people who were fit, can't talk, and reliable. Tara Hanlon's arrest wasn't just another seizure. It was a critical thread that, once pulled, would unravel the entire, sprawling network. In the immediate aftermath of Hanlon's arrest, there were no public announcements, no fanfare. The National Crime Agency, or NCA, began a quiet, painstaking investigation. This wasn't a sudden raid. It was a methodical, intelligence-led operation to piece together a complex jigsaw puzzle. Their work began by leveraging the digital breadcrumbs left behind, analyzing phone data, tracking flight manifests, cross-referencing baggage weights, ticket payments, and passport scans. Slowly, meticulously, the outlines of the network began to form, revealing one courier after another. The first domino was Hanlon, but she was merely the gateway. Once her phone revealed Michelle Clark, the NCA had their central connector. The dominoes continued to fall. Just weeks after Hanlon's arrest, Stenek Kamrat, a Czech national, was apprehended at Heathrow trying to board a flight to Dubai. He had 1.3 million pounds in his luggage, including bundles of 50-pound notes stuffed into his socks. The method was identical. Same airline, same vacuum packing, same forged on-the-vest gold trading paperwork. Then, in March 2022, Joe Lavin and Jonathan Johnson were arrested at Manchester Airport. They had already flown twice, smuggling nearly 5 million pounds. Border Force had flagged a month prior, but the NCA waited, gathering enough evidence to ensure a strong prosecution. Amy Harrison, who made 3 trips moving over 6 million pounds in 15 suitcases, was caught in a subsequent sweep. She wasn't just a courier. She actively helped with booking and packing logistics. Beatrice Orkty, a 26-year-old with a media background, initially hesitant, became deeply enmeshed, eventually organizing 16 trips alongside her own. Nicola Essen, a 56-year-old from Leeds, had flown under the radar for months until passenger records linked her to the conspiracy, revealing 6.5 million pounds passed through her hands. Even those with a lower profile couldn't escape the widening net. Mohammed Elias, who made 2 runs, had a bag go missing in transit on one trip. It later resurfaced at Heathrow, still unopened, still containing 431,000 pounds. That incident put him squarely on the NCA's radar. When he returned on another flight, Border Force officers were waiting. He was arrested on arrival, his role already meticulously documented. Each courier's arrest unlocked more digital evidence, phone messages, booking data, email receipts. It all led upward to the same flight account, the same credit card use for bookings, and the same fraudulent company letterhead. And behind it all, one name kept reappearing: Abdullah Al-Falesi. This level of investigative work is mind-boggling. What piece of evidence do you think was the most critical in breaking this case wide open? Was it the initial cash seizure or the digital forensics that followed? Share your thoughts below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're hooked on this story. Despite the growing net, Al-Falesi remained untouchable. He was based in Dubai, and without an extradition treaty or direct cooperation from UAE authorities on this specific case, the NCA faced a monumental challenge. For months, his name sat quietly at the very apex of the investigation, the evidence against him mounting, yet he remained beyond their grasp. The case, at its highest level, had stalled. Then, without warning, the impossible happened. He came to them. In December 2021, Abdullah Al-Falesi boarded a flight to London, traveling with his wife and children for what appeared to be a personal visit. They settled into a high-end apartment in Belgravia, owned by his in-laws. No aliases, no disguises. To this day, the precise reason for his visit remains a subject of speculation. Perhaps he believed himself untouchable, his role so well hidden that the arrest of his couriers wouldn't lead back to him. He might have underestimated the tenacity of the NCA or simply grown overconfident. Whatever the reason, the NCA was ready. They moved in quietly around lunchtime. 3 phones were seized, and with them, the final, undeniable pieces of the puzzle. Inside, photos of couriers' passports, messages planning intricate handovers, detailed itineraries, packing lists, and even photos of the packed suitcases themselves. It was all there, typed out, photographed, and confirmed. The ghost in the machine was finally captured. He was immediately charged with money laundering. At Isleworth Crown Court in the summer of 2022, the story reached its climactic final act. Abdullah Al-Falesi, the man who designed the entire system, who stayed in the background, was finally brought to justice. He pleaded guilty to removing criminal property, accepting responsibility for laundering more than £100 million out of the UK. The judge, in delivering the sentence, described the setup as considerable network under your charge, acknowledging the sheer scale and sophistication of the operation. Al-Falesi was handed a significant sentence, 9 years and 7 months in prison. Furthermore, a substantial confiscation order followed. £2.5 million in assets were seized, including a luxury Mercedes G63, a Ford pickup, and 3 high-value Rolex watches. Every penny Al-Falesi had accumulated through his illicit enterprise was to be paid back to the state. His capture felt like a major victory. But as we've learned, the story of this network is complex, and justice, for some, would take a different path. While Alfalasi received his sentence, the dozens of couriers he employed faced their own reckoning. Their stories offer a glimpse into the diverse motivations and sometimes desperate circumstances that lead individuals down such a dangerous path. Tara Hanlon, whose arrest was a catalyst for the entire investigation, received 34 months in prison. Judge Karen Holt acknowledged her vulnerability, yet emphasized that Hanlon knew what she was doing. Hanlon had moved an astounding £5.4 million across her trips. Her fate underscored the harsh reality that even if manipulated, involvement in money laundering carries severe consequences. Zdenek Kamrat, the Czech National Court with £1.3 million in cash, including bundles in his socks, was sentenced to 2 years and 10 months. His attempt to pose as a legitimate currency trader fell apart under scrutiny. The range of sentences for the other couriers was broad, reflecting their level of involvement, cooperation with authorities, and individual circumstances. Joe Lavin received a 24-month suspended sentence with 200 hours of unpaid work, while his partner Jonathan Johnson received a 12-month suspended sentence. Amy Harrison and Nicola Essen, both of whom pleaded guilty and cooperated, also received suspended sentences. However, Beatrice Orkty, whose involvement ran deeper, organizing 16 trips for others, received a more substantial 42 months behind bars. This variation in sentencing highlights the legal system's consideration of individual culpability within a larger criminal network. But perhaps the most surprising and debated outcome of this entire saga belonged to Paige Henry. At just 25 years old, this Birmingham woman made 4 separate trips to Dubai in August and September 2020. Her personal contribution to Alfalasi's illicit empire was immense. She carried a staggering £9.05 million in 24 suitcases. By all accounts from the investigation, she was a highly efficient, trusted courier who reportedly made no operational mistakes during her runs. Yet, in April 2024, when her sentence was handed down, Paige Henry walked free. She avoided jail time entirely. This decision immediately sparked questions and public debate. While the precise reasons for her avoidance of jail are not fully detailed in public records, such outcomes in money laundering cases often consider factors like a defendant's demonstrated remorse, early guilty pleas, extensive cooperation with authorities, potentially leading to further arrests, or documented evidence of significant vulnerability or coercion, even if indirect. It presents a complex challenge to the justice system, balancing the severity of the crime with individual circumstances. As for Michelle Clark, the astute recruiter and orchestrator of the courier network, she remains a ghost in Dubai. She hasn't left the UAE since late 2020, likely aware of the international warrant for her arrest. Still barred from travel, she stands as a stark reminder that not everyone involved in such vast criminal enterprises faces the same direct justice. Her status highlights the ongoing challenges of international cooperation in combating transnational organized crime. The Sunshine and Lollipops case is far more than just a captivating true crime story. It serves as a chilling illustration of how money laundering isn't a victimless crime. It is the invisible engine that powers global illicit activities. Adrian So, director of the National Economic Crime Center in the National Crime Agency, stated it plainly: money laundering fuels the global drugs trade, human trafficking, fraud, ransomware, and many other crimes that cause misery and ruin lives. By allowing these vast sums to be cleaned, criminals reinvest them into activities that perpetuate cycles of violence, exploitation, and addiction. It distorts legitimate economies, undermines financial institutions, and ultimately erodes public trust. This case, believed to be the largest cash money laundering conspiracy brought to justice in the UK, underscores the scale and sophistication money launderers will deploy. The story of Abdullah Al-Falasi, Michelle Clark, and the dozens of couriers like Paige Henry who flew under the radar expose a shocking truth: that sometimes the most audacious crimes aren't committed in dark alleys, but in plain sight through the very systems we trust. It was a network that used our airports like a personal highway for illicit funds. No threats, no weapons, just suitcases packed with cash, exploiting a silent loophole. What are your final thoughts on this case? The sheer volume of money, the ingenious methods used to hide it, and the varied sentences delivered, especially the outcome for Paige Henry. Do you believe justice was ultimately served? And what more do you think could be done to close these types of loopholes? We want to hear your theories and insights. Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you're as fascinated by true crime and the hidden realities behind headlines as we are, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and follow us for our next deep dive into the shadows of the criminal underworld. There's always another chilling case waiting to be uncovered. Thank you for watching.